about world building and how Octavia Butler tried to not confuse you. Now this is the thing about this story. It does not give you all the information right up front. So you don't really know what's happening. I mean, your second sentence is, Gatoi's sister had given us 2 sterile eggs. I mean, immediately you're like, what is that? And this person doesn't explain it to you, right? Octavia Butler does not explain it. Gone does not explain it. You just keep reading until you figure out what a sterile egg is. And it's way into the story before you find out that, in fact, it's almost at the end of the story before you find out that only one person, only one female per family can even have babies. All the rest of them are sterile. It's like it's just barely slipped in there when you find out, because this Bram Lomas's person, Tagatkifte, we were talking about her sister is now going to take care of Bram Lomas because Tagatkifte is going to die, and they mentioned that Bram Lomas's that Tagatkifte's sister was sterile, and that's way deep in the story. So I mean, you don't find out anything. It slowly gets to you. And what I realized as I was reading this is the reason it slowly comes to you is because this character was born in this world. So this character is not describing this world to you in any way that is surprising to the character, because the world is not surprising to the character. You know, the character was born, he says he was 3 minutes old when Gatoi held him for the first time, and he was 3 days old when he had an egg from her, right? So this is the world he has known all of his life. So that's why he doesn't really describe anything to you or tell you what's going on. He was born in this world. Now think about this. Think about if you were writing this story, or Octavia Butler was writing this story, and the humans, the Terrans, they don't even call themselves human anymore, the Terrans, Terran, Earth, just arrived on the planet. Think about how different the story would be. Now, how would you think about, can somebody give me an example of what would be like the first sentence? You practice writing your stories right now. What would be the first sentence? Okay, so they're coming from Earth. They're in a spaceship, I assume. I don't know any other way to get around. Would they maybe mention how long they had been in the spaceship and traveling? Would they maybe, that sounds like a good plan, would they maybe describe a little bit of the spaceship? They've been there for years. I mean, we're going to assume science here, and I don't know that much science of future technology, but some type of technology that allowed them to not age. That they're not. I think in like the what's that movie with Sigourney Weaver in it, where they laid them down, they went to sleep. Alien? Okay, good. Okay, Alien. They went to sleep, so they were like traveling for a long time, but they were asleep, so they didn't age. The same thing in the ape movie. Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes, where they, we open it up with the woman scientist is dead, right? Because something happened to her capsule and she aged a normal amount as they were going, and then the other two were very young. So this, they might mention how they were, kept from aging, or when you go into space, your bones thin because you don't have any gravity. So they might mention how they, what the new technology is to keep your bones from thinning. So I know I watched I think it might have been a CSI show, or maybe it was that show Bones, where she was like, all tossing somebody looked at their bones and like, this person has the bones of a 60-year-old, but they're not. They're only like 30. What's going on here? And they figured out it was an astronaut. So that type of, they would have to, maybe they mention that. Maybe they wouldn't, maybe they would just mention it later in the story. You would perhaps would you mention that, what you were looking for in a planet? Did you already know this planet was there? Had the astronomers discovered it via telescopes? Or were you just floating around in space hoping for a planet? Because you need to find something with oxygen, right? A certain level of oxygen. You need to find something with water. You need to find something that will grow food. You must have some seeds frozen. You must have thousands of seeds frozen in the spaceship so you can rebuild Earth. You might mention who you brought with you. I mean, would you bring with you engineers, scientists, doctors, nurses, physical therapists, people who can actually build houses, people who can actually farm. I mean, you have to wide variety of people. But then, do you remember what Gatoi said? I mean, yeah, Gatoi says to Gon near the end. She says to Gon, your ancestors came here years ago. And then she said, you know this. Which is like a trick, a writer trick. Because, think about it, when you're writing, your character has all this information that we, the reader, don't have. How do you get that information to us readers, without making your character say stuff that a character would never say? I mean, I would never say to you, we are in class at SIUC, because you know this, right? But I want the reader to know this, so how do I get them that information? So, she does this trick. She says, you know this, Gon. You know that your ancestors came here years ago running from people who would have enslaved them. That's all the information we get. We don't know what year they left. We assume in the future, because we don't have the technology to go to another planet now, so we have to assume in the future. But that's all we know. So, maybe they would have just brought everybody they could who could escape. We really just don't know. But if you were writing this story from the beginning, you would be describing everything, telling us so much more information. And when you first laid eyes on the Talik, how would you describe the Talik? I mean, how tall is Gatoi?
10 meters.
10 feet. 3 meters. 10 feet. And what does she look like? What insect would you say she looks like? A big centipede.
She had a velvet belly.
She had a velvet belly.
I think she kind of looked like a fire ant.
A fire ant.
Or not a fire ant, a red velvet ant.
A red velvet ant.
Yeah. She had a stinger.
She had a stinger. So, can anybody draw? Does anybody want to draw her? I can't draw, so I'm not going to try. 10 feet tall, coils, sort of like a centipede, lots of legs, a tail with a stinger. So maybe not like any, maybe, what looks like that on Earth? Maybe a mixture of animals.
A mixture of like a scorpion and a centipede and
She's really fast like a snake, but then, yeah, centipedes I don't think of as being that fast, but snakes are fast and slithering.
A skull, 4 sets of living bones per segment, and she can like twist and shove herself forward around the face.
So, okay, 10 feet tall, she can twist and shove herself forward. She's very fast, she's very strong. I mean, she whips her tail and knocks Gon across the room, right? So, a mixture of a scorpion, fire ant, centipede, and I kept thinking spider. Spiders have velvet stomachs, don't they? Some of them. A red velvet ant. Okay, so when you first saw this person, you would not be thinking, this person, not a person. When you first saw this, you would not be all comfortable and not frightened the way Gon is, right? And you would immediately describe this. You would give us a really good description, and you would probably use similes. You'd probably say sort of like a fire ant, but not. Tail like a scorpion. Legs like a centipede. But with some type of thumb at the end that can actually hold things. Because she undressed Bram, right? And she tied the pants of Bram around his hands. So you would be describing this person immediately. You wouldn't, I don't know why I keep calling her a person, you wouldn't be like just comfortably, slowly giving us the information. This person is slowly giving us information because he was born in this, and this is not surprising to him, the same way you were born in this world, right? So the information just slowly accumulates. So that in world building, like any of you who want to write, for example, historical fiction, you have to world build in historical fiction, right? But I don't think you'd want to give us all the information all at once, because that's kind of like not interest the reader, I think. Especially, but you want to give us information that lets us know that you're in a different world, in a different time, right? If you're in, 1850 Louisiana, you have to let us know that sometime in the first page, I would imagine, right? And you would do that with world building. This person lets us know they're on another planet fairly quickly, or they're certainly in a different world fairly quickly. And so you have to place the reader, you have to give them enough information. There's one point that I just absolutely loved. I think they're sitting in the kitchen talking, and one of the moons is shining through the window. one of the moons. God was born on this planet, so to him it's not surprising there's more than one moon. I'm sitting there wondering how many moons are there? And if you had just arrived to the planet, you would tell us how many moons there were, because it would be surprising to you, it would be new. You know, you never look up and mention the moon because you see it every night, right? It doesn't surprise you. So this is the way, you know, the world building that happens in this story that I just absolutely love. But I think that might be why some of you were a little bit confused in the beginning, because she is telling it from God's point of view. It's first person God. And because God was born in this world, he does not explain it to you immediately. He slowly gives you information.